Hello everyone, welcome to Insurance Business TV and our Q2 Cyber Insurance Power Panel here in Canada. Think cyber insurance in recent times, and no doubt you'll be thinking about the threat of artificial intelligence, or AI for short. But are policies keeping pace? And what new challenges are on the horizon? Well, to delve into this issue, we welcome back Derek May, Vice President of Technology and Cyber at Hub International, Adi Sharma, Senior Vice President and Cyber Growth Leader at Aon, Mila Arajo, AVP Digital Shield Personal Cyber Practice Leader North America at NFP. And making his debut, Neil Jardine, Chief Cyber Intelligence and Claims Officer at Box Insurance. So welcome everyone, and as mentioned, this is an AI-focused edition. So how are AI-driven cyber threats, so I'm talking about things like deepfake phishing, automated hacking, AI-powered malware, how are they changing the risk landscape for cyber insurance? Adi, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Paul, for allowing me to kick this off. So, in my opinion, I think when we think about AI and cyber risk, there's really two aspects to it. There's other risks to AI, of course, but specifically for cyber, number one, threat actors are now using AI tools and solutions to really drive efficiency and sophistication in their attacks. AI is likely able to assist with the development of malware, assisting in ransom negotiations and communications, and overall just helping them streamline attacks while broadening their reach of potential victims with very low human intervention. So that's the threat actor side, which is number one. Number two is the good guys, which is organizations like the ones that we all work for are now using AI tools to also drive efficiencies within their businesses and increase output and profitability at the end of the day. So this is, of course, great and encouraged, but also comes with a heightened risk of both cyber attacks due to any potential interconnectivity and the transmission of malicious code, plus also the privacy breach risk, which can occur due to the loss of confidential information that these AI tools have potentially access to. Now, of course, there's best practices, just like any other risk, and there's ways to mitigate these risks, which is a whole other topic in itself. But unfortunately, not all companies are using safe and secure tools or even placing a very heightened emphasis on the risks that come with some of these AI tools. Now, when we think about cyber insurance, this, of course, is expected to be challenging for the market, and brokers and insurers are keeping a very close eye on AI related threats and developments before making any major changes to their stance and their appetite and their wordings. I can confirm that as of now, generally speaking, in our experience under cyber insurance, there is no major changes to coverage relating to AI. And I'm sure we'll touch more on that throughout this session, and that might very well change in the coming months. But at this time, there's no major changes being made under cyber insurance to do with AI.
Yeah, we'll definitely revisit that point a little bit later. But Derek, just to pick up on something that Adi said a little bit earlier there, AI is making these attacks more sophisticated, isn't it?
It is for sure. It's breaking what we call the human firewall. And for those that aren't aware of that term, basically this is us as employees, us as individuals within these corporations that are potentially the ones clicking on links or getting duped into doing things that they really shouldn't be doing. Now with the use of AI, these phishing emails look 100% legitimate. It looks like it could be coming from inside your organization. They're using the same signature blocks, the spelling, the grammar, it's all perfect. So no longer are we looking for those, clear tail signs of it being a direct phishing email. So it comes back to education within our organizations to make sure that we're up to date with how AI can be used against us and digging a little deeper to make sure that we're not the next one's compromised.
Yeah, indeed, we have to dig a little deeper, Neil, because it seems like the barrier for entry is now getting a little bit lower.
The barrier for entry is getting lower for cyber criminals. What's happening is less sophisticated cyber criminals are able to use AI to learn or gather large amounts of information. AI, effectively, at the end of the day, is basically just large language models. So the aggregation and gathering of large amounts of data. So what's happening is the cyber criminals are using AI to build connections in order to launch social engineering attacks. Case in point, you can go through large amounts of data breach information, past dumps from 2018 even to 2020, aggregate that in with LinkedIn information and publicly available information on the internet, and then social engineer using emails and other tactics in order to gain access to businesses. So it's definitely lowering the barrier. What that's meaning, though, is with the cyber risk landscape changing and cyber insurers are also changing. reshaping, right? They're using more of a kind of prediction prevention model where they're trying to anticipate what is going to be used around AI, how it's going to be used, and then notifying clients in advance so they can become aware of it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And Mila, what are you seeing on the personal side?
We're seeing much of the same. These AI enabled cyber threats are putting more people at risk. And this opens the door for individuals to be more targeted for the access to the people that they know or the companies that they work for or the information that they themselves have access to. So it's not just themselves who are at risk. And something that's really notable is how AI deepfakes and other risks can impact the need to protect these individuals because everyone is crossing over now. So just because someone is individually impacted doesn't mean that this may not impact your company. It doesn't mean it may not impact your friends and family if you're an individual. So for example, let's say you're the head of a kid's social club and you have the information of all of the members of, your student body's parents in your phone because you manage the social club for the school. If you become attacked somehow and your information is leaked, and then social engineering creates a profile and can determine, that you've got this information and then targets you and gets access to this, you may now have responsibility to others or a stress or strain because of this and all of the relationships that impact you. There's going to be a deeper focus, I think, on what these crossover points are. Is the school responsible? Is the company responsible for what has happened because of an employee's errors? Or are you responsible for everything that's happening out there? And various cyber wordings are going to have to address, how is the crossover managed? And, is there going to be a deeper focus on the exclusionary wordings or a need to actually build in more of a collaboration between a personal cyber response and a commercial cyber response for these cases? So it's a very interesting time.
Let's delve a little bit more into that wording aspect then, if we can. And let's go back to Addy's point earlier. Are we seeing carriers adapt their cyber policy language or indeed their exclusions to address these AI generated attacks, especially those that are perhaps more sophisticated and harder to detect? What are you seeing, Derek?
Yeah, in short, yes, some insurers are definitely making some changes to the wording, but not all. There's a couple different schools of thought here, and I think Neil is going to touch on this probably because I'd love to hear his background from the underwriting side. But from brokers, we're seeing a lot of client questions about AI, and that's prompting brokers like myself, Addy, Mila, to go back to insurers and to seek some clarification on where they stand. Because of some of that pressure, especially during this softer cyber market, some insurers have come out with affirmative AI wordings. Now, again, there's schools of thought on whether that's a benefit or maybe there's a potential negatives with that. But certainly, I'll let the rest of the panel chime in as well.
Well, there you go. Neil, Derek's given you the intro. Let's hear from you.
Certainly, yeah, Derek makes some good points. There are a few different schools of thoughts around AI coverage and affirmative language versus non. We look at AI as a software tool or a technology that businesses use. So it's covered within the scope of the policy because the policy defines the risks that we're insuring against, which is privacy breach, cyber attack, illegal threat, extortion events, so on and so forth. What it doesn't do is define the softwares that the business decides to operate under. So if the business decides to use AI, that's really just a software or service that business is using. It can be treated as or looked at the same as Word, Excel, or any other bits of software they use. So what we do is we don't define the software. What we do is define the actions that are going to cause the cyber attack, and then it's up to the business to choose which software they want to use. The risk, of course, is if you turn around and start defining through affirmative coverage AI or other software, what you could potentially end up doing is limiting or excluding it. So right now we define AI as a large language model or generative AI. What happens if AI starts to redefine and we come up with a new or different type of AI out there? How do we make sure that we make the AI definition broad enough within the policy that we don't accidentally end up limiting it midterm when a new type of AI is developed? So we actually take the approach of we're not going to define the softwares you use. We're going to help you understand that we cover all softwares. What we do is we look at it, we cover the types of attacks against those various softwares. And that's why we basically said publicly that we cover AI. It is fully embedded within our policy. There's no exclusion around it, so we can be abundantly clear for brokers and clients.
Okay, well, that's what's happening at Box. But Mila, what are you seeing again on the personal side?
So it's going to be hard to predict where this is going. But at this time, and again, this is a product that's really in its infancy when we look at how many years the personal cyber product has been available. But it's been very interesting to see that development. It's not common at this time to have exclusionary language around AI enabled losses specifically. And it very much in line with what we've been talking about here is the focus is really on the actual loss, what happened. And in many instances, that could be, was this an online fraud? How is that loss defined? Was it an illegal wire transfer or, some sort of a data breach incident or ransomware attack? What we have seen, though, are that sublimits in various sections impacted by AI. So this could be something to look out for and to really familiarize yourself with as a consumer or as a broker, offering this product to your clients. It's common across several products, but not necessarily with all. The carrier, for example, that underwrites NFP cyber product doesn't have any notable AI specific exclusions at this time. And we're not seeing that, with any of our other partners as well. Although what we do see is insurers working on redefining the limits, the sublimits, and the wording definitions on how it makes it possible to pay out on these claims. And these areas have become, in some cases, more exclusionary, and in other cases, a little bit more broad. But there's an interesting, intricate balance to be had. So I think that, as the losses get paid and the risks increase, we may see a lot more focus onto value added services instead that help insurers navigate these risks to prevent risk and to kind of avoid the loss altogether.
Okay, so it looks like some adaptations are being made, but Abby, would you say still overall you're not seeing major changes?
Yeah, I think, I mean, to Derek's point, some carriers are going ahead and adding affirmative coverage for AI related threats, specifically in their funds transfer fraud and social engineering sections. But at this stage, we are not seeing any concerning exclusions, which is important, at least with the carriers that Aon regularly works with. Now, this is an effort in terms of addressing some of these risks. This is an effort by these carriers to eliminate any gray area around AI backed attacks, while others have chosen to remain silent on the risks, which, believe it or not, isn't always a bad thing. And Neil sort of expanded on why that is. Now, I do want to mention that most people consider AI to be closely tied to cyber insurance, and that is true, and it is due to the interconnectivity of cyber risk and privacy risk to the AI tools that organizations use. Arguably, though, the bigger risk might be on the E&O policy and the E&O side, because AI tools that companies are using might actually suffer from hallucination, underperformance, misinformation, which could then lead to a breach in the professional services that are being rendered by an organization, which might be and should be a concern for especially professional services firm. Also worth noting that there are now dedicated AI insurance products out there which cover a plethora of risks associated with the use of the AI tools that organizations are integrating into their environments. And it covers a variety of risks, including the ones that I've just mentioned above in the case that these products need to be explored further.
Well, let's just delve a little bit deeper into underwriting processes if we can. And Neil, for that, I will come back to you. Do you believe that these processes have evolved effectively to assess a client's use of AI technologies, both indeed as a security defense and as a potential risk?
I think there's two kind of course of action here. There's the traditional insurers that are still have not adapted to more of an AI technology based underwriting process, that are doing more of point in time application style underwriting where they get that application in. They're very much underwriting the client on that application and that's it. I think there's the technology driven underwriting process, which certainly we are doing within, which is less about the point in time and more about using AI and other tools to monitor the client and see whether or not they're a good risk. But then not only monitor them just to the underwriting process, maybe we bring them into the fold and make them part of a member of the Box family. And then at that point, it's continuously monitoring them. So using AI and other tools to monitor their attack surface, monitor threat intelligence from them or about them through the dark web and other various sources. And then, of course, being engaging all the time, right? So we are constantly writing thought leadership articles for our clients on AI, what the risks are, what the notifications are around them, and so on, so that when they do decide to go ahead and use a chatbot or implement a chatbot on their website, they know they can reach out to their insurer and say, hey, you've probably seen a lot of clients do this. What's your experience around chatbots? What's our liability exposure? What are the things that we should be considering on our insurance policy in order to make sure that we're protected while we implement this new technology? So I think that there are those insurers that are moving away from, or have already a lot, well, ourselves have moved well away from a point in time check. There are some that are still doing the point in time that I don't think are ready for AI. And of course, those that have moved away, which are certainly embracing the technologies, not only AI as well as others, in order to make sure that cyber insurance is more than just a loss transfer technique. It's more of a technology that they use.
Yeah, and I think one of the key points there, just said in passing by Neil, is just that this is new technology, Addy, and that's hard to keep up with, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, to that point, these carriers have evolved to the extent that they can, given how quickly the space in itself is really evolving, and given how nascent this risk still is. I think some carriers are now asking specific questions, in our experience, around the AI tools that an organization is using. How are these tools being vetted? Who are these tools being developed by? And really how these tools are integrated within an organization's existing IT infrastructure, and what type of access do these tools have to confidential information that the insured organization is legally liable for? These are all critical questions that insurers want to know about, because they could potentially lead to cyber insurance claims. And this, in my opinion, is a good thing. And I'm pretty sure we will see more and more of these questions, and more underwriting rigor around this risk appearing in the next few months and years. And it's really imperative for us as a community and as an industry to address this risk before claims activity picks up significantly.
Now let's delve into claims. Have you seen any claims related to perhaps AI specific incidents? So I'm talking about things like synthetic identity fraud or AI created content causing reputational harm. And indeed, how are incident response vendors adapting to handle the complexity of these AI driven cyber attacks? Mila, what are you seeing?
We have seen a number of claims coming through in various areas. In particular, although we do see risks with financial losses coming up through various different types of schemes, the ones that stand out the most are those that impact a person's emotional well being or reputation. And this could be anywhere from romance scams to sextortion, where, as you had mentioned, sometimes images or videos are being doctored to show people in compromising situations they were never a part of, or people are being tricked using information that's available out there about them into getting involved in situations where they give access to things that could harm them. So the psychological impact can be devastating. And I think the ability of the incident response vendors in these cases becomes key. And it's a point of differentiation with a lot of the personal cyber insurance providers as to what they're able to provide to assist people, not only in the event of an incident or to help them protect themselves and be proactive and not be involved. So I think that what we're really, not only having incident response vendors, but having proactive incident response so that someone can call up 24/7, get assistance, and prevent these things from happening. And that's a huge advantage. So we could maybe even call it threat mitigation vendors in the case of these cyber policies, and really offering something that's going to respond to these increased AI risks.
So clearly, there's a need to be proactive on the personal side, and Derek, I imagine there's a need to be proactive on the commercial side as well.
Absolutely. Again, coming back to my earlier comment about building that human firewall, we know how easy it can be to compromise, and that's why we need to keep working on it, right? We can't just put down our sword and hope for the best. We need to stay with the times, educate our workforces, go through all of the different hacking attempts that are possible with AI. So whether it's that perfect email that we talked about earlier, or it's a deep fake using someone's photo, video, voice, things like that. And it's getting back to basics. It's if you're about to approve that big wire transfer and you've got that, what looks like a suspect email or a suspect voicemail saying for you to do it, perhaps it's time for us to stand up out of our chair, walk down the hall, try to speak with that person in person, or going back to basics and in calling a phone number that you have already predetermined is accurate so that you can get away. So again, with new technology, sometimes we should go back to the Stone Age a little bit and do things how we always used to do it, because that's the best way to mitigate these things from happening.
Well, it seems like overall, Andy, that claims are rising, but are we successfully detecting AI's involvement?
Yeah, Paul, I think the truth is that it's still very hard to detect whether AI was used in certain types of attacks and claims. If it is a social engineering attack, AI was likely used. Can we say that for certain? Unlikely. In short, I think we haven't come across too many explicit AI specific incidents, but I think I'll let Neil talk more about this given he's a seasoned cyber claims professional. Now, on the incident response vendor side, at least through my conversations with some of these firms recently, I think most professionals in this space are gearing up for what they believe to be a potential new wave of cyber threats fueled by AI usage. And they're really suspecting that threat actors are already using AI for attacks, primarily phishing and BECs, which is business email compromise. And these firms are really trying to ensure that their consultants and practitioners at this time are properly trained on AI and they understand exactly how companies, as well as threat actors, are using AI in their respective businesses and their operations so that when the activity really picks up, they're adequately prepared to respond to these threats. So that's kind of what's happening in the incident response vendor side, in my experience.
Well, you heard it there from Abby. Neil, you are seasoned in this space, so tell us what's going on.
This seasoned professional definitely thinks we are seeing AI without actually seeing it. So, if we think back, what is AI, right? Again, it's a large language model. So, if you were to read a book every day for your entire life, you might read 120, 150,000 books in your lifetime. AI's read 40 million plus books in there, just in its creation of the model. So, AI is basically gathering such large amounts of data that to Addie's point and others on the call, we might not actually know what AI is being used for in terms of attacks because it's so well crafted. It's so well adapted to being able to look and feel like a real attack, real person. We have had several attacks on us. We're a cyber insurer, so we've obviously got a big bullseye on us on occasion. But we have seen attacks that are getting more and more sophisticated. They look like emails that are legitimately from between two individuals in our organization. And we are constantly looking for those flags. But the flags, to Derek's point, is their flags are getting harder to understand or read or see because the emails are so well crafted without spelling errors, terms, and so on. What we are doing, though, in order to help kind of prevent or stop or predict how these attacks are going to happen, is we're building playbooks for clients. We're teaching clients what AI cyber attacks look like and how they're different by building those playbooks. And we are also saying, to Mila's point, phone us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ask for our help. If you think you're under attack, give us a call. We're removing that stigma that if you fall for a cyber attack, you're responsible and it's your fault. Right? If somebody breaks into your house, we don't blame you for the fact that somebody broke in and stole your TV. We blame the criminal. But for some reason, if somebody breaks in your email or socially engineers you into paying the wrong party, you're at fault, not the criminal, you. So we're removing that by saying, phone us 24 hours a day. We're not going to blame you. We're here to help you. Here's a bunch of scenarios we're already seeing. Some of these may involve AI. Stay proactive and reach out as soon as you can. So to everyone's point of the call, there's AI is already embedded. Cyber criminals are already using it. They're a business. They're adapting to new technologies. We're just going to continue to see more and more of that. We may not see it with AI written across the top of the attack, but it's certainly going to be embedded somewhere within.
Well, indeed, AI is very much invented, but obviously constantly evolving as well. So, what do you think will be the next major AI related challenge for cyber underwriters and brokers, perhaps over the next 12 to 24 months? Any thoughts, Annie?
Look, before we get into the challenges, I think we focus a lot on the risks and the challenges associated with AI and not enough maybe on the benefits, which makes sense. We're all in insurance. But I personally am very much excited to see how AI is already enhancing businesses and streamlining operations. And we're just about getting started, as everyone will sort of agree to. Now, that said, successful social engineering fraud, as we've talked about, has already increased and is bound to increase with the use of deepfakes and synthetic identity fraud. Plus, AI usage has and will continue to enable attackers to quickly scale and accelerate their attacks. Inevitable. The biggest challenge for us, though, in the insurance community would be number one is appropriately underwriting and insuring this risk. What types of information should we be collecting given the low loss activity associated with AI and the limited experience that we have as an industry relating to AI and AI related threats, similar to where cyber was many years ago. So, underwriting information and collection is the number one challenge, I think. The number two challenge is going to be whether or not for carriers to affirmatively cover, stay silent, or exclude AI related losses. Not just under cyber insurance, I think, but also under other lines of insurance, especially E&O policies as well. So once again, similar to where cyber insurance was many years ago, carriers will be sort of faced with making that decision on what their stance is as these attacks and this risk really starts to pick up.
I imagine as well, Neil, that we might see more regulation in this area.
Yeah, we will certainly see more regulation around AI. And I think what that means is that brokers and underwriters need to become risk interpreters or better understand what it is and how clients use cyber and AI so they can better understand what it is they're going to need within their policy in order to make sure they stay protected, right? We've obviously built a incredibly broad policy. I'm going to say that it's the broadest one in the market, but the point is to make sure that we continue to provide that broad coverage so businesses can continue to grow and use and adopt new technologies. They don't feel like they're being restricted by regulations and compliance, right? When privacy regulations came out in Canada, insurers immediately said, hey, we're going to cover you for fines, we're going to cover you for legal reporting, notifications, call centers, so on and so forth. Same idea as AI regulations come out, right? But that is covered within the policy, all the notification costs and so on related to it, right? So again, it's about making sure that cyber policies are there to protect insureds, and brokers and underwriters are risk interpreters and are able to understand and what that is that the clients need so they can make sure that that falls within the scope of the coverages that they're providing to them.
And that will be a lot to keep on top of as well, Derek, won't it? Because AI is moving so fast.
I think the biggest challenge for the insurance industry is just that it's keeping up. No one would accuse the insurance industry of moving too fast. Our history has proven when we're trying to adapt, it just doesn't happen very quickly. There are, market leaders like Neil, if I can give him a shout out in Box. There's the insurtechs that have really made a big impact in the cyber world, especially because they are able to sort of stay up and they are tech focused and really on the leading edge. But that's just a very small subset of the overall market that moves, again, at a glacial pace. I think even those in the tech industry were surprised with how quickly AI has evolved. And, when you then put that in front of an insurance company that already moves pretty slowly, I think it's going to be hard for us to keep up. So that's going to a top-down management thing that's going to have to come from the board level or the C-suite that's really encouraging our respective brokers, underwriters, claims adjusters, et cetera, to really stay on the leading edge of this topic because it's not going away and it's only going to evolve, in the years to come.
Yeah, at the broker level, Mila, it's going to be vital to get to know those new products, get to know those new risks as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look statistically, the cybercrime losses and the amount people are losing to fraud and internet crime continue to rise and set records year over year. So even though we become more informed about it, we still see the losses increasing. So I think, Canadians, for example, lost 648 million to fraud in the last year. If we compare this to the US, similar types of increases, over 50 billion were lost in the past 5 years to internet crime. So we need to avoid getting intimidated by I think, and understanding that the risk is really all of the different things that are impacted and can be enhanced by an AI. So, everyone from executives to high profile clients to individuals looking to protect their families can be impacted. So, as brokers in the personal risk space, overall in general in the market, we need to collaborate. We need to understand what things our clients need to get a better grasp on, what they need to understand is available to them. And through education, both for ourselves and for our clients, learn about the various options available and knowing which ones provide the best advantages for the specific cybercrime in question, including AI, to be able to serve the client's needs. So I think truly devoting the resources to understanding the advantages of adding cyber coverage to an insured's portfolio and learning about the variation and the advantages that clients can have with cyber coverages is a big challenge for us. And I think it could have some really good results in protecting people and avoiding losses, especially when it comes to the various products that provide these loss mitigation. So these are the significant challenges that brokers face. But the good news is that as the cyber lines evolve, as we can offer more proactive services as part of various policies, and we get to learn the various wordings that can really assist our clients both in the personal line space and in the commercial, we now have more options to protect our clients. So it's definitely a very interesting time.
Yeah, interesting time indeed. Great thoughts from everybody, and indeed, huge thanks for your time. That fantastic roundtable, this one. Clearly, AI will be popping up in future discussions as well, so keep it right here and Insurance Business TV.